General, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. Ain't got no right to grumble. Every day on this side of the grass is a good day.
Every day on this side of let me tell you something, man. I don't know how often I've told the story of my friend General J.R. Gorham and asking him how's he doing, and that's always the answer.
It's
Every
always
day,
answer.
this side of the grass is a good day.
hmm Every day on this side.
Yeah, man. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you tonight. Um, I've been I've been knowing you for probably 25 years, maybe
Every bit, every bit.
about 25 years, man. And I'm just so excited because throughout the 25 years being in your presence or outside of your presence, I've referenced you a bunch of times. So a bunch of people know who General J.R. Gorham is, that you've never met. And that's
Well,
that's
I
that's the case
appreciate every chance
anyway.
I get it, right.
Yeah, man. So man, let's get into it because your story is phenomenal and it's inspirational. And I'm gonna take credit for you being a general.
Okay.
And let me tell you
No
why.
problem.
One
Okay.
night, excuse me, one night, I don't know what we were working on, but we were at your house, and again, this is in probably the late '90s, and
hmm
you had all these books and papers stacked up, and I'm like, man, what's all that? And he's like, oh man, that's my war college stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like, war
Yeah.
college? What's war college?
Mhm.
And you were like, you explained what war college was and the
Mhm.
significance of it because war college was a key piece to you becoming a general. And so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it was necessary to you becoming a general. So, and I was like, and my small mind at the time was thinking, he gonna be a general, because I ain't never seen a general, never talked to a general, never been in the presence of a general. I'm like Colin Powell, like general, and it was like yeah,
with,
yeah,
yeah, with three less stars. With three less stars.
right. And so from that day, I started calling you general. So whenever I see you, I'll be like, hey,
That's
hey,
right.
general, how you doing? I start calling you general.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to
Yeah.
take credit for you becoming a general in spite of you doing all the work.
Well, I appreciate that. Every little bit helps, man, because it's very competitive.
Yeah, and that was definitely a little bit, man. So again, thank you, man. We are broadcasting in what's better than one Black millionaires group on Facebook, and that group was formed basically to inspire people that look like us to grow, to do bigger and better things, to start businesses, to write books, to do whatever it is to cement their legacy, man. And you are definitely you've been an inspiration in my life, and so I just had to get you on to share with the people that's in our group. I want to thank the group members for doing what you do, for um, inspiring us, for giving us the content, sharing the content that you share. So please tag somebody, ping somebody, tell them they need to jump on this live with General J.R. Gorham, who, by the way, is the first Black brigadier general in the state of North Carolina. A huge accomplishment. So, man, I want to start with. I always start with people's like their upbringing, their childhood. You're
hmm
from North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina,
That's right.
and um, and you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, right?
I'm telling you, but it got a little tarnished there, man. Got a little tarnished.
Talk, talk to us about your childhood, man. What do you remember about your childhood?
Uh, yeah, well, I grew up uh, the son of a sharecropper. It was 11 of us in a four-room shack. No running water. We had a outside toilet, and we had a well. And on the side porch was the washing machine. And on wash day, I had to draw 80 buckets of water from that well, 10 for the rinse, 10 for the wash, and 10 for the rinse. 4 loads of clothes it took all day long to wash. In other words, Rod, we grew up poor. not poor, not poor. Po. Ain't but one O in Po, and we couldn't afford the aura. So anyway, I grew up and with anger issue with my dad because we couldn't. He wouldn't let me go nowhere. Wouldn't let me do nothing. I could go three places in my youth. I could go to school. I could go to church. I could go visit my relatives, and that was it because we didn't have no money for anything else. But finally, at the age of 18, I joined the United States Army. And I joined the Army and I got down to Fort Hood, Texas. And for the first time in my life, I had soft money in my pocket. But like a lot of young folks, when they leave home, I um, got out there and got with the wrong crowd. And I took on some bad habits. Number one, I started drinking, uh, going out with friends almost every night. And for about 6 months, uh, I was on my way to becoming an alcoholic. And by the grace of God, on Christmas Eve of that year, uh, I was at my platoon sergeant's house, and I was at my platoon sergeant's house. My producer that got involved with this here, Rod. I'm where I was, and I want to come in and change things.
It's all good. It's all good.
I was at my platoon sergeant's house. Sorry about that, folks. My wife is always right. Okay, so I was at my platoon sergeant's house. I done drank 3 beers, and he's offered me the fourth one. And I know if I drink the fourth one, I'm going to be drunk again. And I had a divine intervention from God as I was sitting there getting drunk. The Waltons came on TV. You know them folks, Mary Ellen, Jim Bob, and all them folks.
Yeah, I remember. Good night, Jim Bob.
Yeah,
good night. Yeah.
Yeah, I started thinking about my 5 sisters at home, my brother, mom, and dad, and all them folks back there. And a feeling came over me, Rod, that I can't really describe to you, but all of a sudden I didn't want that beer no more. And so I told my platoon sergeant that I think I was just going to go home. So he said, be careful because you've been drinking. And anyway, I left there and went outside. I got in my 1973 Ford Pinto. Now, that Ford Pinto is the cheapest car that you could buy at that time, $16.95. You get one totally loaded, 4-cylinder type. So I got in my car and I started to that hole in the wall apartment that I was living in at that particular time. And on the way to that apartment, the best thing that has ever occurred in my life happens. I'm driving down the road. I look over on the shoulder of the road. I see a loaf of bread that has fallen out of somebody's car. And I don't have no bread in my house. As a matter of fact, at that particular time in my life, I had 75 cents in my pocket and a 4 tank of gas in my car because I had drunk up the rest of my money. And so I pulled my car off to the shoulder of the road and I got out of the car and I walked over there to stoop down to pick up that loaf of bread. But when I did, the story that I had learned at St. John Baptist Church, where I grew up at, the prodigal son came to my remembrance. And I said, oh my God, I am him. I'm out here doing all this stuff I'm big and bad enough to do. My mom and daddy didn't raise me this way. So I came to myself, Rod, grabbed a loaf of bread, and I went. For the first time in about 8 months, I called home. It was Christmas Eve, all my sisters there, my mom and dad there, my brother, everybody home except for me. My mom answered the phone. She hears my voice, and she said, bruh, that's what they called me back home. She said, bruh, come home. You need to be with your family at Christmas. I said, Mom, I can't. She said, why not? I said, Mom, I got 75 cents in my pocket. I got a 4 tank of gas in my car. That's all I got, Mama. She said, me and your daddy will wire you some money tomorrow. You need to come home and be with your family. Now, I know we have heard that term called man up, but that night, that's what I did, Rod. That night, I started to man up, and I told my mama, I said, Mama, I got myself in a bad situation down here at Fort Hood, Texas, and I got to get myself out. Because if I depend on you and Daddy to bail me out this time, every time I get in a bad situation, I'm going to be dependent on y'all. And one day, y'all ain't going to be there for me. Then what I'm going to do? So I said, Mama, just pray for me. I said, when I get out in August, I'm coming home. But until then, I got to stay here and deal with my mess. So then she proceeded to put all 5 of my sisters on the phone. Now, I'm the apple of their eye. I'm the first of the Gorham family of 5 girls. They used to shoot the gnats and flies out of my face, kiss my little feet, making me feel important, right? And
Right.
I feel like a total, ain't nothing going right in my life. I'm making all these bad decisions, getting in trouble all the time. Not enough to put me in jail, but that caused me to have a little kind of bad reputation in the company I was in at that particular time down there at Fort Hood, Texas. So they crying, I'm crying. I feel like a total loser. Finally, they get off the phone, and I hang up the phone, and for a brief moment, Rod, I'll be honest with you, man, for a brief moment, the thought of checking out permanently crosses my mind. But something on the inside of me, what we call in the military, that intestinal fortitude kicked in, wouldn't allow me to do that. So when I got off that phone, I left my apartment, went across a railroad track into a cow pasture. And I walked and I walked and I walked. And then I stopped. But that night, Rod, in that cow pasture was the defining moment in my life. I made a decision that night, Rod. I said, this is as low as I'm ever going to go. And from this day forward, I'm moving one way, and that's up. And by the grace of God, I got through the holiday period with my sanity intact. The first day back on the job at lunchtime, only with a gleam in my eye and a desire in my heart. I went down to the community college. I signed up for English and I signed up for math because I realized that education was going to be key to my upward mobility. Okay, I went to the orderly room to see the first sergeant. He's the top in the unit. I've been in that unit for 2 years. I'm scared of this man. I've never spoken to him. I see him come one way, I go the other. That's how scared I am of him. But that day, I mustered up enough courage. And I walked in there, I knocked on his door, and he came to the door, and he saw my name tag, and he immediately knew who I was, even though I had never spoken to him. You know why? Because I was on every bad report he had. Late for formation, haircut not according to regulation, boots not shine, uniform not starched, you name it, I could claim it. He said, what's on your mind? I need to talk to you. He said, come in my office. What you want? What's on your mind? I said, First Sergeant, I got a proposition for you. Now, I don't know about you, Rod. I don't know if anybody ever looked down on you like you the scum of the earth, like you don't matter, like you ain't jack. That's how he looked at me. He said, you, dirtbag, you got a proposition for me? He said, this I got to hear. He said, what's your problem? I said, First Sergeant, I will pull extra duty every weekend for the rest of the time that I'm in this unit if you keep my name off that extra duty roster on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He said, Gorham, that don't make no sense. Nobody want to pull extra duty, especially on the weekend. And you're going to pull it every weekend? I said, I sure will. He said, when do you get out? I said, I get out in August. He says, January. I said, it don't matter. Because see, Rod, why he didn't know in that little church that I was raised up in Falkland, North Carolina. Them saints used to say, when your heart get fixed, your mind get made up, and then you can go every step of the way. And that's where I was, Rod. My heart was fixed, my mind was made up, and I didn't care what price I had to pay. I was going to get my education. So he said, you trying to tell me that you're willing to pull extra duty every weekend for 8 months so you can go to school at night? I said, yes, sir. And he looked at me, Rod, like them old First Sergeant would. He said, well, I'll be damned. You got a deal. And he shook my hand, and I left his office. But you know what the First Sergeant did for me, Rod?
What was that?
He took my name completely off the duty roster. I didn't pull no more extra duty the whole time that I was in that company.
Oh, wow.
Now, the question is, why did he do that?
Yeah.
Well, I think, Rod, he did that because, like a lot of people do, he saw something in me at that particular time that I didn't even see in myself. And I think he said to himself, I know this boy was a troublemaker because I got him on all my reports, but this boy's willing to make a sacrifice so he can go to school at night. I think I just give him a little help along. Rod, that First Sergeant don't know to this day that his act of kindness that he bestowed upon my life helped me to turn my whole life around. So that was the easy part. Now come the hard part. that little posse that I was hanging out with, right? They used to come over to my
Let me, let
crib,
me, let me,
you
let
know,
me ask
with
you a
all the
question.
hard.
Let me ask you a question,
Yeah.
because it's so much just in that part of your story that we can unpack, and we could be here for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But so going back to the fact that you had to, you know, pull, get the water for all of the, doing laundry. You said 80, I think you said 80 buckets of water for doing laundry. That's a lot for a little kid. Kids today,
Yes, sir.
they lose their mind if you take their
Right.
PlayStation, right?
Right.
So, like, just in that
Right.
part of your childhood, what did you learn? And what lessons did you get during that time period that applies to your life even today?
Hey, uh, you got to be willing to work hard in order to get what you want out of life. Through that process, my work ethics were being developed. That's probably with a whole lot of folks today. They don't have no hard. They ain't got no work ethics, right? But through that process, having to do that, I mean, consistently, time after time after time, right? It just gave me appreciation for work. And so when I went out into the world, regardless of where I went, even when I was growing up, I was always a good worker, hard worker. Didn't mind hard work, didn't mind getting dirty, whatever it take to get the job done. Hey, and I had a father. His name was Roy. The kids in the community called him Roy Joy. And although we lived in poverty, the man was always happy. I never did see my daddy sad. He was always whistling and singing and acting like he was like on top of the world and we were poor as dirt. So yeah, that work ethic that I developed, drawing water out of that well and priming the backer from 5 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, during my youth. When I got into the army, man, I was like Gomer Powell. I mean,
The army was easy.
on my feet, man. I could drink all the milk I wanted. I was able to sleep in air conditioning for the very first time in my life. I ate food that I had never all I seen was on TV. I'm actually eating that kind of food now. I
Right.
mean, that's where I was, man. And so I had an appreciation. But I'm gonna tell you, audience, right now, one of the major problems that we have with our kids today, they ain't never been hungry. When you've been hungry, you want something out of life. But
Man.
if you ain't never
Or
been hungry,
yeah, they've never
and
never
I had a
really
hunger
they've
for
not
want,
experienced struggle.
yes, sir. Yeah, they never experienced the struggle that we experience, right? I think that's why separate us sometimes from them. You know,
Yeah.
they don't
So
get the struggle that we
the
have and whatnot.
so you feel like the struggle is necessary.
Yeah, you know what they say. If you go in there and pull that the worm out of the cocoon, you gonna mess up the butterfly. You pull him out, don't let him fight his way out. That he would never become a good butterfly. He always be deformed like that if you go in and pull that butterfly in that cocoon. So no,
Yeah.
we can't pull him out. We got to let him struggle. You know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was J. Edgar Broadhill that says, God forges us on the anvil of adversity for a purpose known only to him. That is how he prepares us for life. So sometimes when you're struggling or being pruned and whatnot, nobody it don't feel good to be pruned, be hit with an anvil, whatnot, to be shaped.
Yeah.
But when you get through the other side of it, hey, there's some benefit from it. You can grow more once you prune that tree back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
sometimes it's a pruning process when things are going the way you want it to go. So you got to be able to
Absolutely.
take disappointments when it comes.
Yeah. I mean
Yeah,
that it's pruning is a law. If you want something to grow, cut it back. Right. That's your hair. That's grass. That's
that's
a
right.
crepe myrtle. That's
Yeah.
if you want it to
But a lot
grow
of
bigger
times
and
it's
stronger, cut
good.
it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
after all of that, then, I started
let me
thinking back on all the stuff my daddy used to tell
yeah let
in
me
that
ask you
truck.
this.
So
And
okay.
let, let me ask you this, man. I remember you were one of the few people that I know
Mm-hmm.
that, again, when when we first met, excuse me, you're one of the few people that I know that you told me in probably, I want to say it was 1998, 1998, 1999. You told me
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
your life was going to play out. And you said,
Mm-hmm.
Rod, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And this is
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. You said those
Mm-hmm.
things. I tell that story all the time because I
Mm-hmm.
just believe I believe in the fact that we can create our own life and we can manifest what we say, and
Mm-hmm.
our words have power. And I
But it,
believe in the law of attraction. And you used to say to me at the time you worked for First Citizens Bank, and you said, "I'm gonna retire
that's
from
right.
the bank. I'm gonna have X amount
That's
of
right.
dollars in my 401k. I'm gonna become a
Uh-huh.
general. I'm gonna get at least a 1 star. I'm gonna retire from the
Mm-hmm.
military. This is how much money I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
be getting in retirement from the bank. This is how much I'm gonna be getting from the military. This
Mm-hmm.
is how much is gonna be in my 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Pay off my house." You like
Mm-hmm.
you you in
Mm-hmm.
in you know, 30 years ago or 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you said this is gonna happen. This is gonna, and
Mm-hmm.
then you from time to time, throughout times that we saw each other, you will repeat that. You're one of the, I'm telling you, and I know a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, but in terms of manifesting what they say they're going to manifest, you're one of the few
Mm-hmm.
people that actually over an extended period of time. I'm not talking about somebody saying I'm gonna lose 20 pounds over the next month, but dude, you pretty much said this is what my life is
Right.
gonna look like in 20 years, and
Mm-hmm.
and it looks
Right.
like that and then some. So speak to just the power of you
Oh yeah.
believing in the
Yeah.
power of your faith.
Yeah. Okay. Almost everything that I do is centered around the good book. And the good book says, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him or her who believes, right? And then in the military, they taught me, they said, plan your fight and fight your plan. And then at the church where I attended, St. Peter's World Outreach Center, over every door was the word consistency. See, all that was just lining up with me, you know what I'm saying? And so I devised my plan early in life, right? You know, the first year out of college, I worked every day except for Christmas and Easter. I was working 3 jobs. I was in the military, I was at the bank, I was working at fast food convenience store. But at the end of that year, first year out of school, I had 10 grand in the bank. Okay. So I had enough to start my foundation, right? And then I read a book somewhere. I know it was The Richest Man in Babylon, right? And then that kind of gave me some fire right there. And I started applying some of them principles there. And then when that 401k came out, right, I started maximizing that thing from Jump Street. I was consistent with it, and I looked at my money as employees. I had some weren't getting minimum wage, in an emergency fund and savings account. Right? Then I had some, blue collar workers, in well, I take that back. I was always an aggressive investor. I didn't have no blue collar workers. I had white collar workers, all in the markets. All of my investment was in the market, but I had a plan because I said, now if I stay here and work as First Citizen Bank and retire, if I stay in the military and retire, then Social Security kick in. At the time of my life when they telling me that I need to be going to a more conservative investment strategy, I can stay aggressive because I'm never going to need that money. I'm going to let it grow. At the time when my portfolio will probably be at its biggest, they telling me to scale it down. So no, I ain't going with that plan. I'm going to go with the plan of not never having to use that, so I ain't got to worry about what the market doing, because I read somewhere where it said stock market over the life of the stock market averaged a 13% return on the investment. So I said, hey, then I used to hear folks say, when stocks are high, when rates are high, stocks will die. When rates are low, stocks will grow. You know what the interest rate been doing for the last 10, 15 years, right? stayed really, really low.
Yeah, it's
And the
been on the floor.
market has grown, right? So I stayed with that little strategy. I put my mix together, you know, and I never changed it from day one. I started with 6%, then 10%, and then the whole 16% I was putting in that, you know, and the bank was matching it, you know. And so now I got my plan together. So when, like I said, when I retired, you know, from the military and from the bank and from the state government and whatnot, you know, I had enough income coming in to sustain my lifestyle. I paid off all my debt. My cars are paid off. House are paid off. The Bible said to owe no man nothing but to love him. Okay, I'm doing that. The Bible also said that a good man will leave an inheritance to his children's children. My youngest son, Joshua Caleb, a junior down at East Carolina University, he don't have no kids. I'm planning for his kids because the Bible said I'm supposed to leave an inheritance not only to Jamie, Joshua, and Tony, but to all their kids. And I plan to do that. I ask God to let me be the Joseph of my family. That's what my desire, that's what my driving force is. That my generation would be, my life would be a sacrifice for all the generations to come. That leads me into why I wrote that book, Sharecropper's Wisdom, Growing Today's Leaders the Old-Fashioned Way. Because that book that I read says that, you know, like I said, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Well, that book started out being inheritance, my children. But then I started working for the state as the commissioner of juvenile justice. I met a whole lot of kids that didn't have a daddy like mine. So I thought I was expand my scope and write the book not only for my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids, but other kids who might not have a father like I did, right? Then it also says in Habakkuk to write the vision and make it plain upon table, so he that readeth it can run. So I'm hoping that the little words of wisdom that's contained in that book will help maybe change the trajectory of some of our children's lives. So I spend a great deal of my time now going out speaking to boys and girls all over North Carolina through the Boys and Girls Club. I was fortunate enough, Rod, this year to be, well, last year now, to be um, given to be voted in as by the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce as a Distinguished Public Servant Award recipient. And they allowed me to make a little speech. And I made a little speech asking corporate America to sponsor me to help put those books in the hands of boys and girls all over North Carolina. And one major company, um, Martin Marietta out of Raleigh, stepped to the plate and they bought 2,200 books of mine. And I'm in the process now going all across the state talking. I was in Wilmington yesterday speaking to the Boys and Girls Club down there. I'll be in Greensboro next week. I'll be at Carver High School in a couple of weeks. And I got 900 books in Raleigh, 500 books in Greenville, 100 books in Rocky Mount, 100 books in Elizabeth City, 100 books in Sanford, 100 books in Durham. I got to get around to all those places and speak.
I love it, man.
You know,
so that work ethic is still obviously present. So we talked about work ethic. We talked about believing and having faith. I mean, that sounds like a recipe for success in doing what you've done across your life and really for anybody.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you in your audience, right? This is for real right here, bro. For the first time in my adult life, I feel like I'm grown. I mean, I ain't got to worry about nobody firing me from no job. I don't have to worry about nobody interrupting my income streams. So for the first time in my life, I can be my true, authentic self. I don't have to be what the United States Army say I have to be. I don't have to be what First Citizen Bank say I have to be. I don't have to be what state government say I have to be. I can be what I say I want to be. And I've been saying it for a long time. And see, what happened to most folks, right? When they get a promise or a vision or whatnot, you know, I always tell folks, keep your eyes on the promise and not the problems. See, you know, I just believe in, you know,
you got to repeat that. Keep your eyes where?
Keep your eyes on the promise, not the problem. Because see, that book says that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And when them problems come, there ain't nothing but weapons forming against you. But if you stay in belief and believe in yourself and believe that God has given you this vision and stay true to it and waver. See, the biggest problem with Christian folk, they don't believe. Check that. They don't believe because it says signs,
you better be careful,
wonders.
sir. You better be careful,
The
sir.
believer. Hey, I'm straight up. Hey, I can be my own authentic self. Did I just tell you that, Rob?
Yes, yeah.
I can
But you
be my
know what?
own true authentic self.
You
Huh?
know what? Sitting from my vantage point and seeing you
Uh-huh.
progress over the years,
Uh-huh.
to me, you've
Yeah.
always walked in the room being the JR that I know. And I've seen you in on stage, and I've been in a private room having conversations with you, and you've been that guy. So maybe I don't know if the authenticity that you're talking about is inward, but from my vantage point, you've always walked, and I've seen you on multiple stages in different arenas, and you've always walked in as General J.R. Gorham.
Yeah, but see, yeah, a lot, one of the best things that happened to me, Rod, when I got a chance to go work for state government, and the first time in my career, I saw black folks in charge of stuff. See, in the military, I'll be the only one. In the banking industry, I'm the only one, right? And I'm looking, and I'm having tried to, when I first came into banking, the guy who hired me, who was my friend and mentor, I came in there, with my little mustache on and whatnot, and he came up to me and he said, JR, he said, what's that on your upper lip? So I had to change, right? I wanted to have a mustache. He said, what's that on your upper lip? I said, it's a mustache. He said, we don't have them in the bank. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, now I hired you for this bank. I want you to be successful. So I'm never going to tell you anything that's going to be harmful to you. He said, let me answer your question. He said, now you go to the doctor. And a guy come out of the doctor's office, got a white coat on and a stethoscope around his neck, and he tell you that you're sick. You can believe him, right? Yeah. Why you gonna believe him? He said, I'm gonna tell you why. Because he looked like what you think a doctor ought to look like. You're not going to go in his office and see what medical school he graduated from. You're not going to even see what position he was in his graduating class. You're going to make your decision on what you see. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Your customer expect you to look like what they think a banker ought to look like. Very valuable lesson to me. But see, I had to change my way, right? 2 months later, he comes back in. I got my little gray pinstripe. I got my little oxblood shoes on and burgundy tie. I'm thinking I'm kicking it. He said, in the bank, if you wear a dark suit, you wear black shoes. Yes, sir. I went home, put them burgundy shoes in the closet, went out to the bank belts, bought a pair of black shoes. Because I realized, see, at that time, I've been out of it for a minute, right? But at that time in corporate America, right, if you wanted to be successful, right, you had to look like, I think like, talk like the folks there. See, they bring you in because they want diversity, right? They say they want diversity, but once you get into the organization, they expect you to like, act like, think like, talk like them, right? That's not
Yeah,
being my authentic self. So on the job, in corporate America, you don't integrate, you had to assimilate. So that's what I meant by that. I had to assimilate in the military. I had to assimilate in banking. I had to assimilate corporate America. I had to assimilate in state government. Now I don't have to do that, if that makes any sense.
that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So sharecropper's
Yeah.
wisdom. That thing is catching
Yeah.
fire, man. What's the secret sauce in this book?
Yeah, man. My sales increased. Huh?
I said, what's the
You
secret
right?
sauce in this book? What is the secret sauce in this book? Like, why do you think it's been so successful?
Well, because a whole lot of people can relate to it. And the lessons that I taught and the bits of wisdom that I share in that book is just as relevant today as it was when my daddy was sharing it with me in that old raggedy smoking Silverado pickup truck that I was so ashamed of then, but so proud of now. I mean, it's common everyday sense, but people don't take advantage of common everyday sense. I mean, the best thing, Rod, the most important lesson that my daddy taught me in that old truck. He would say to me, boy, because that's what I thought my name was, right? He said, boy, you are becoming your company. Whoever you hanging around with, that's what you becoming. So, when I graduated from the North Carolina Military Academy as the Distinguished Honor Graduate of my OCS class as a second lieutenant, I remember what that sharecropper told me, right? And so as a second lieutenant, I started hanging around with the first lieutenants, and I became one. Then I started hanging around with them captains and then the majors, lieutenant colonels and colonels. Finally, I started hanging around with them generals. I became the first African American general in the North Carolina National Guard because that's what my daddy told me, right? It's interesting that millionaires hang around with millionaires and business people hang around with business people and gangbangers hang around with gangbangers and drug dealers hang around with drug dealers and church folks hang around with church folks. And, it goes on, right? And so that was a very, very important lesson. He said, you want to be, then the fella in the bank told me, he said, you want to be successful. You got to look successful, act successful, talk successful, think successful, but you also got to hang around successful friends because the Godfather said the man with the most power is the man who got the most powerful friends because if they your friends, right, then you got their power. So relationships, as I tell folks, build them before you need them and build them with people who can take your name where you cannot go. And like I said, I was honored as being the recipient of the 2020 Distinguished Public Servant Award in 2020 by the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. Somebody, because I didn't do it, somebody took my name where I could not go. And I know you also heard that, hey, it's not who you know what, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. No,
Yeah.
that ain't it. It ain't who you know, it's who you and why they know you. So you always got to have a good reputation. Your reputation got to go before you. But when you're out there doing positive things, if you build the right relationships, if you build them before you need them, and if you build them with people who are in position to take your name where you cannot go, somebody said, have you considered my servant Job? No, have you considered my servant JR for that position? Because something that I said or done in their present thought them the impression that I was worthy to receive that award, but I didn't even know it existed, right?
Yeah.
But somebody took my name where I couldn't go. When people
Yeah.
understand the importance of relationship, building them with the right folks, you just don't never know. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm
That's
saying?
awesome, man.
Did that make any
Uh,
sense?
yeah, a ton of sense. I think the three of the most important words used together is I know a man or I know a woman. And
Yeah.
like you said, you have to build those relationships before you need those relationships. And the most powerful
That's
thing to
right.
me is for you or me not to have something but have a need, and I can call you and you
Mm-hmm.
will say, I know a man or I know a woman. It might not be you
Mm-hmm.
that can help, but you know someone because you built the relationship with
Right.
them that can benefit you and anybody that is in proximity of you. And I think that is huge, man. You
Yeah.
touched on having
How did
a
I get?
plan. Say again.
How did I get on your show? How did I get on your show tonight?
We have
How
a
did I get on
relationship.
your show tonight?
Relationship.
There you
Period.
go.
Period. No ifs, no
Relationship.
ands, no buts.
That's right.
Yeah. And
That's
and
right.
I and I
You
love
know me.
absolutely.
You know what I'm
A-
about.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if we didn't have that relationship, you wouldn't have even considered me.
Correct. Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
how it works.
Yeah. And
That's how it works.
I
Yeah.
love the part that you where you talked about, from going from level to level. It was a matter of being around the people that you wanted, that you needed to be on, their level. So you went from being a captain, a full bird, and you hung out with full birds. You want to be a general, you got to hang out with generals. If you want to, be a runner, you got to hang out with runners, right? So that was powerful, man.
That's right.
And so
That's right.
I hope people got that.
Yeah. So give me a minute. Let me prophesy again. I told you some stuff years ago, right?
Yes, sir.
Now hear this.
Well, and you know what? You're already
The day
answering the question that I was about to ask. So go ahead.
What's that? Okay. I don't know whether it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be this year. Okay, I'm bold. You got to be bold too. Some people call it being cocky. I don't call it being cocky. I believe when God puts something in my heart, when He give me an unction, right, that it's going to come to pass. And I base that, I know that feeling. I know that unction. And when God speak to me, I start speaking it out, because every time I speak it out, it reinforces something on the inside of me. It put things, these 10 words your audience need to know. Listen to me, folks. I know what I'm talking about. If you got a pen, you need to write these 10 words down right now, because it changed my life, right? Listen to these 10 words. And I ain't trying to get on no religious kick, but it's just how it is. God will provide provisions for those who pursue their vision. Did y'all get that? God will provide, not maybe. God will provide provisions for those who pursue their vision. God gives every man, every woman a vision. But if they don't pursue it with everything within them, they don't give God nothing for. And I got a whole nother story about that right there. That's a whole speech, my mountaintop experience, when He brought that to me and made it real. See, this is what happened, folks. People go places, like you folks out there listening to me tonight. You hear the words that I'm speaking. You receive the words I'm speaking. You believe the words I'm speaking. But what happens to most of you, you don't understand the words I'm speaking, because it says, with all they're getting, you got to get understanding. And you don't get understanding until you walk it out in your life for yourself. When you start to walk thing out for yourself, then it becomes real. So I don't care what it is you got, right? It will be the only reason why people fail, right, is because of broken focus. And the only thing that's going to break your focus is 3 things in the spirit and 3 things in the natural. In the spirit, it's the lust of the eye, the pride of life, and the lust of the flesh, right? In the natural, it's people, places, and things. That's the only thing going to break your focus. And if you allow those things to break your focus, you will not fulfill the potential God got in you. Okay, I ain't trying to preach, but that's just how I am. That's how I feel.
It's
That's
too
how I
late,
roll.
sir. It's too late. You already preached an entire. It's too late. You said you're not trying to preach. It's too late. You already preached an entire sermon that is that's tremendous. But what's in you will come out.
Well,
And no
that's
need.
right. That's right. Good
No
thing
need,
is I'm not
no
taking
need
up
to
a collection.
apologize. Right. That is the good thing, man. Listen, we've been at it for a while now, man. I just want to thank you so much for your time. We're gonna have you back for sure, because we there's just more that we need to share, because like I said, you dropped some you dropped some gems, man. You talked about planning. You talked about, making sure you're around the right people. Oftentimes, we try to run with one group,
Hey, Rod.
but we want to be something else, but we can't be. And so man, you dropped some gems tonight. You had something else to say?
Can I share one last thing with you?
Absolutely.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is what God told me, Rod. He said, JR, you know what? He said, you're a sharecropper, just like your daddy. I'm like, what? He said, the only difference between you and your daddy, He said, your daddy planted seed in the ground. You plant seed in the hearts and mind of people, but you're a sharecropper. So God has allowed me to be in a position so I can share the crop of wisdom that He has placed in my heart that my father gave me. And I'm giving to people. It's amazing that a seventh grade educated sharecropper is affecting the lives of children all over this country. And that's why I'm going to New York this year to see Mike Bloomberg. I don't know how that's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen. It
Bro.
ain't for me to know. It's for me to believe that it's gonna happen. Like I told you when I said years ago that I'm gonna become a general, and I'm gonna go to Mike Bloomberg, and I'm gonna ask him to sponsor me and buy 100,000 of my books to go all over this country to boys and girls clubs and high schools and whatnot, and sow that seed that's in that book. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him or her who believe. Now put that in your pipe and smoke that. Gosh, yeah.
Hey, listen, man. Listen. I know,
That's for real.
not people. I know if you say it, if you say it, I know that you believe it, and I'm not betting against you. I believe it's going to happen. So I look forward to seeing the media and the pictures with Mr. Who'd you say Bloomberg uh, at some point in the near future, man.
Mike
Again, I want to.
Bloomberg worth $63 billion.
Okay, all right. Well, he's gonna buy 200,000 books then, if that's the case. How do people get your book? How do we get your book?
Yeah, go to www.sharecropperswisdom.com, or you can go to www.generaljrgorham.com. And if you buy from me, I autograph all my books. I put a word of wisdom in there, and I will send it to you, and you have an autographed copy of the book from the author. I'll drop something in there like this: there is no power on earth greater or stronger than the human spirit when the Holy Spirit catches it on fire. Flame
Wow,
on.
flame on! I love it. I
Flame
love
on.
it, man. And thank
That
you,
good
my
enough for
friend.
you?
Thank you so much for blessing us tonight, man. For dropping those gems, man. I
No,
definitely
bro.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
And that listen
you.
out
Get all the
when
glory to
the
him.
when the book came out, I bought 10 copies. So I have 10 copies. So I don't think I have an autographed copy. So I need to find you to get my copy autographed. Um, so folks that are interested in
Ain't no ain't
more
no
and
problem.
seeing more,
When I
definitely
come to you.
get the book. Okay, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work. So thanks again, everyone in the group. Thanks for doing what you do. This is the kind of, these are the kind of people that we bring you. And it's all about us growing and growing together. And the question, the group name is a question, and that's what's better than one black millionaire. And the answer is a group of black millionaires. So I'm excited. JR, you got me hyped, man. I'm ready to go run a marathon. Not really. I'm kidding. I'm not running a marathon.
I ran 7 of them.
I know we didn't even get a
I
chance to
ran
talk about
seven
the
of them, Rod.
you run 7 marathons, and that in itself is amazing, just to talk about that whole process and getting through a marathon, man. You're a bad man, man, and thank you. Thank Barb for loaning us you for about an hour. I appreciate you, man. And everyone, please continue to support our group. Please continue to tell people about the kind of content that we're bringing you. Tag a friend, share this conversation with them as well. And with that, we're going to say good night. We love you. Peace.
Peace. Much love, Rod. Much love, brother.
Much love back, sir. Much love back.